It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley are here, and we're going to talk about the latest Windows news, including a complete realignment of Microsoft's business. Or is it? Steve Ballmer's comments to shareholders are top topic when we begin right after this.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT. Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, episode 282, recorded October 11th, 2012. Bread and butter in a blender. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Go to My PC from Citrix. Go to My PC connects you directly to your Office Mac or PC from any other computer or from your iPad and iPhone too. Sign up for a 30-day free trial today at gotomypc.com. Use the promo code WINDOWS. And by Ford. Ford invites tech geeks to join the conversation, submit ideas, and grab your Tech Geek badge at social.ford.com. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show that covers the latest Windows news. And there's lots of it, including a big event next week. Joining us now, Paul Thurrott, who was on a plane last week. We welcome you back.
Yes, it's better being here than on a plane.
I bet. Welcome. Thanks to Travis Loudermilk for filling in, though.
Yeah.
It was nice to have him, especially since we could find out what the Windows Phone SDK lateness really means. From a
what did he say? Did he say nothing?
Yeah, pretty much. Hi, Mary Jo.
Yeah.
Mary Jo Foley, all about Microsoft. How would we characterize that, Mary Jo? He said there's a lot of upset.
Yeah, I think he was trying to be more diplomatic than I was.
You said there was a lot of upset.
I was saying people were pretty angry, and he was saying, well, you know, he brought some reason to something that I was being unreasonable about. How's that?
Do you feel? Do we feel better about it now?
Do we need an explanation of that? What do you mean?
No, I mean, you know, we've talked on the show a lot about SDK still not out for the majority of developers, and the phone launches October 29th. So, you know, the existing apps will work on the phones, but you can't yet write apps to some of the new features if you don't have the SDK. So it's kind of a catch-22. It's like there's going to be apps, but it maybe not the apps that third-party developers want to build at this point. There still is no SDK as of this week.
Well, and I got an email from somebody saying, Leo, you ignorant slut, you don't understand clearly that Windows Phone 8 will be able to run all of the Windows 7 phone apps, and so there's no problem at all.
Yeah, it's hilarious. You know what I understand is that whenever Apple announced iOS 6, which was back in June,
I think it was
earlier,
even
I don't
before
know.
then, yeah.
All right. You know what they did that day? They released an SDK to developers. I'm just throwing that out there. They've had it for months and months and months.
Yeah. Well, maybe Apple didn't have
there are different ways of doing it. That's the way Apple
Paul, as you remember, because I read the book that you recommended that describes this, towards the end of World War II.
I was wondering which book this was going to be.
Towards the end
of The Hobbit,
of
you may
World War
recall.
II, one of the ways that Hitler kept his troops fighting in the face of a clearly lost cause was he had a secret weapon.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, maybe Microsoft has a secret weapon.
We're still waiting to see what Hitler's secret weapon was.
Yes, that's right. As a matter of fact,
we may find ourselves waiting for the Windows Phone 8 secret weapon as well.
Is there a secret? That's what they're saying, right? It's a secret.
I don't think
secret
We
sauce.
don't know.
I don't think
We hope there is a secret, and it makes all this waiting worthwhile.
This one's tough because I think Windows Phone is excellent. I think it's what we know about Windows Phone 8 is great. I think the extra stuff that's leaked out already is also great. There's no reason that I can think of to hide this from the public. But this is always going to be the fundamental difference that I have, and I think Mary Jo too has, with Microsoft, is this disclosure stuff, this transparency thing where, you know, they used to be maybe too transparent, and now I would argue they're too opaque, I guess, for lack of a better term, and that maybe there's a happy middle ground, you know, that we could strike.
Well, it's a done deal, right? We will get the SDK, but not till October.
That's like saying, you know, Christmas is going to come eventually.
December 25th.
I mean, why speculate about what you might get? Let's just wait until it happens.
Yeah. And I think most of the big developers, including many independent developers, have it. But just people they could make, shut up. Right.
Well, not really. I mean, somebody took a video of it and put it on YouTube.
Oh,
I mean,
well, there you go.
As would happen.
That was what they were afraid of.
Of course. But this is what happens, by denying it to some, by denying it to many, one of the few people who did get it just posted everything about it online, which, of course, is like adding salt to the wound, right?
So now the secret's out, and you still don't have an SDK.
Yeah, it's the worst of both worlds, is what we call it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, but that was not on the list, but I had to bring that up.
Yeah.
The biggest story, the top story, came out. Was it this morning? Was Steve Ballmer told us this is not the company you thought it was?
Well, he's telling what he basically announced formally was what we've been talking about here on the show for a long time. I mean, that Microsoft is evolving with the industry. And I think this is actually very healthy because everyone thinks of Microsoft as slow-moving and old-fashioned. But actually, what we've seen this year is some pretty impressive moves towards services, especially. Devices, not so much, although obviously they're getting into the device market a bit more with Surface. But
so what did Ballmer say?
Yeah, he said, "We are Apple." I think that would be
that's the concise version.
You can go into Word and there's a feature that summarizes it.
Yeah,
that's what it does to that article. It says, "We are Apple."
Make no mistake about that.
We are Apple.
Yeah, I'll give you the exact sentence from his letter to shareholders. He said, "This is a significant shift both in what we do and how we see ourselves as a devices and services company."
Devices and services.
Right. I mean, I've spent the past decade and a half referring to Microsoft as the software giant.
Right.
Yeah, me too.
The word software does not appear in that description at all.
So they're saying that half of our business is hardware, and the other half is services, web service. I presume
let me tell you something. If that's true, they're going to be a very successful $100 million a year company because
there's money in those devices.
They really don't make. I mean, they have mice and keyboards and Xbox
and Surface,
and then and eventually Surface.
But isn't it redefining software as a service? Isn't that really what they're saying?
And also
Office 2013 is a perfect example of that, right?
Yep, totally. Also redefining PCs as devices.
Yes.
Right.
Well, I noticed they didn't say we're a computer/devices/software services company.
Mm. Yep.
This is a weird. It's something to consider. And I've never really thought this through, but we've been having these discussions over the past year or two, especially since the iPad came out, about where these devices fit into the scheme of things. I mean, obviously, smartphones are something different than PCs. It's very easy to understand that those things are different, even though you may do some of the same things, like check email and browse the web and all that. But a tablet, even though it's a different kind of device, people are buying those sometimes instead of a PC because their computing needs are somewhat limited compared to what you might be able to accomplish on a PC. They just don't need to do the things that are special about a PC. Okay. But from Microsoft's perspective, it's curious that they would go down this route because they will in a year have gone from the world's biggest maker of software for PCs to being one of 3 or 4 major platforms makers in this devices world. And it's really not clear where they're going to fall out in that scheme of things, right? I think everyone would agree that Google with Android is going to own a big part of it. Apple with iOS is going to own a big part of it. Microsoft will own a big part of it or some part of it. But, they're not the big shark in this pond or whatever. It's a terrible word. But you understand.
You mean there's sharks in my pond?
I knew you were going to call me on that. All right. Look, if you've seen Jaws 4, you understand that sharks are amazing creatures. The point is, you know what I'm saying. In other words, the weird thing is it's actually possible for Microsoft to grow as a company from a financial standpoint and yet never dominate any one market as much as they did with Windows ever again. That they will have to be a player.
Right.
Just one of some players. And I also wonder if this devices thing doesn't hint in some way toward this notion that we're backing devices, not just our own devices, but others' devices. And that, we've seen a little bit of that this year, some Android and iOS software. And I think we're going to see more of it in the coming year that, maybe they're going to diversify a bit and not just back their own horses. in the devices market. So there's a lot going on.
And that letter, the same shareholder. Why is that so hard to say? Shareholder letter. Ballmer also played up again, saying, "Hey, we still love our partners. We still are going to support our OEMs." So even though
did he ever call
they're
them
talking about
Fredo
being
by
a device, yeah,
You are my brother.
I love our Fredos. I mean, our partners.
just saying. Yeah,
It's
like
in 2 years, but
okay. I think the partners are probably flipping out, but yeah, it's in there. Like, yeah, we're still backing all you guys too. We love you.
Did you, Mary Jo, see any language in there that suggested at all that they were going to make their own phone? Was there a hint of that in that?
Well, the word device is a little bit of a giveaway.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. That means PCs.
Yeah. Here's what it said. And so there was a shareholder letter, and then there was the proxy statement. In the proxy statement, they described the Microsoft Surface as, quote, a series of Microsoft-designed and manufactured hardware devices, plural.
Yeah. So
that's
not the first time they've described Surface in that fashion, by the way, right?
It's not.
When they announced the Surface, they said that this would be the beginning of a line of devices. Okay.
Yep.
And I missed last week's show, obviously, so I assume there was some discussion last week about.
Well, we did announce the Microsoft Windows Phone.
In
case you missed that,
we announced
that. Yeah.
Did you discuss this? Did you discuss the notion of the rumors about Microsoft maybe doing a Surface Phone? I mean, what was the conclusion on that?
Actually, we didn't talk about it.
You didn't?
No, we did. We talked.
Did we?
about that.
I wasn't. I must have been sleeping. I'm sorry. What did we say?
We said there still is no proof that they're going to do this, but none of us would be 100% surprised if they do it at some point.
That's what we said, Paul.
Well, I mean, given the way that Microsoft has kind of pitted its partners in the phone space against each other in this weird little, deathmatch arena where they're like, here's a special favor for you. Oh, here's another one for you. I mean, I almost could imagine them just coming out and here's the final stab in the back. We're just going to do our own phones. But hey, thanks for all the efforts, guys. That was great.
Did they make the Kin? Who made the Kin?
Oh, yeah. Well,
have they made a phone?
Sharp made the Kin. The Kin,
but it was Microsoft branded, right?
Right. It was Microsoft branded, so it was a Microsoft.
It was Microsoft branded, yeah. And those things are kind of tough because can you really, obviously Microsoft designs the Surface. I don't know where you draw the line. I mean, a lot of people would say Apple makes devices. Apple obviously doesn't actually make the devices, so it's hard to know if there's a distinction between Microsoft making a Microsoft branded device like an Xbox or a Surface and Apple making an Apple branded device like an iPad or a Mac or whatever. But Microsoft doesn't build anything, so I don't even know how to explain or know what the meaning, if the difference is there, if there is any. It doesn't matter who makes it, right? If it's Foxconn or who's the company that makes all the Xboxes?
Pegatron?
Pegatron is making the Surface.
Pegatron.
We think.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's not. I mean, everybody knows that. We know that the company doesn't make their own thing.
Right.
The question is it? I think Sharp designed the Kin. That would be my feeling.
I don't think they designed it, right? I actually do think Microsoft designed it. I think they had guys from Danger involved with that. I really do think they designed it.
Then it's there. Then that was a Microsoft phone in the same way that a Windows 8 phone would be a Microsoft phone.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Interesting. So they have a history, not a glorious history, but they have.
No, they're much like France in that way. They've been around for a while.
Have they done any other?
Not a lot in the wins column, Leo.
Have they done any other? They're the France of phones. Yeah. Were any of the Windows 6 phones Microsoft branded? No. So the Kin was the only phone that they did.
Yeah, before the Kin, the phone was treated just like Windows was treated, which is how they treat almost everything, really. I mean, the Xbox is the big set.
I guess the reason it's germane is you could say that this devices and services strategy began maybe with the Xbox and then the Kin. I mean, this is not really new in that sense. The Kin wasn't a great success, but had it been, people would have trumpeted it as a Microsoft phone. It was a feature phone. That was the weird thing.
The only problem with a lot of people point to the Xbox as this huge success, including Microsoft. But the truth is, if Microsoft didn't make the Xbox. If the Xbox was made by Xbox Corp, they would have been out of business a long time ago. I mean, this is not, I get within the context of Microsoft that they did something different here and it succeeded, with air quotes around that word. But, there was a lot of R&D that went into that.
Right.
And not to mention the 1 billion plus warranty repairs that, would have put a lot of companies right out of business. So that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Yeah. Obviously, the Xbox is a big.
Sorry, Paul. The other device that would have been the next example of Microsoft making its own devices was going to be the Courier, right?
Right.
That was going to be the dual screen tablet. And if they had actually decided to bring that to market, that would have been another example of a Microsoft device.
Same guys that made the Xbox, right? Or some of them.
Yep. Right.
Not surprisingly, maybe.
So doesn't it, though, devices to me does not sound, I mean, I know you're saying it includes computers, but it doesn't sound like it includes computers. You would say hardware.
Microsoft,
but they're
Microsoft
specifically
still
devices.
and Microsoft still calls tablets PCs, right? Like to them, tablets are a subset of a PC. And so if you think a tablet is a device, a mobile device, then you also, I would say, have to go by their definition.
Okay.
This is things are blurring, right? Like I said, we have smartphones, we have iPads, we have PCs, right? We have different kinds of PCs. Now we have different kinds of tablets. We have like 7-inch tablets and 10-inch tablets, and 10-inch tablets can sort of be like PCs and have keyboards and stuff, but most people are not going to attach a keyboard to a 7-inch tablet. So they're kind of different things, We have ebook readers, and now we have Windows RT, which sort of straddles these lines even worse. I mean, this whole thing is like a kind of a weird gray area, and it makes it hard to understand how well these companies are doing against each other, because it's not fair to say that an iPad Kindle Fire HD competes against a Surface tablet. But oddly, the Kindle competes against an iPad, and the iPad competes against the Surface tablet. So where do you draw the line? How do you compare these things accurately? I think Microsoft, in some ways, has just thrown its hat in this arena where it's a device. Yeah, the shark pond. Thank you for not forgetting that.
And don't forget about the Zune.
Yeah.
Well,
don't forget about the Zune too, right?
The Zune was a
Microsoft
device.
A device, designed in a sea of ego that, never.
Is it as significant that Mr. Ballmer wrote this in a letter to shareholders? I mean, there is, as a CEO of a company, you have a fiduciary responsibility to stakeholders to fill them in on significant material changes in the company. He's even saying,
well, actually,
it is a fundamental shift in our business.
Not just shareholders. This was a letter to shareholders, customers, partners, and employees.
Yeah,
it's weird because it says shareholder letter,
right?
But it's addressed to our shareholders, our customers, partners, and employees.
But it's not. I guess what I'm saying is, it's not. He didn't say it in an all things D conference. This is a more serious
statement. This is a legal statement of intent.
Exactly.
Yes, this is a public utterance by the company. Absolutely.
Yeah, and he did say this one other time recently before. He did an interview with the Seattle Times a couple weeks ago, and he said this exact same statement. But I think this was just like trying it out, almost like, okay, let's try this out.
One thing to say
this.
One thing to say to the Times, another.
I think it was Mary Jo. Didn't you point out to me that their homepage had changed? That if you looked at the header, was it you who told me that a couple weeks ago?
No, it wasn't me.
Okay, so somebody, I don't remember obviously now who did it, but someone said, hey, if you go to Microsoft's homepage and you look at the, it's hard to, you have to look it up in the tab there. So depending on what browser you're using, you don't even see this anymore, right? Like where the name of the site used to be this big thing that would appear in the top of the browser.
Oh, I see.
But in tab browsing, like in Chrome, all I see is Microsoft Home PAG.
Oh, look,
right?
It says, you're absolutely right. Microsoft homepage, devices and services. Holy cow.
It's actually been that way for over 2 weeks.
Holy cow.
And someone had pointed it out to me, and it's funny, I didn't think much of it. I just said, well, yeah, okay,
But that's what the Google search takes very seriously too, is that
this is not a throwaway comment. This is a statement of direction. This is the Titanic turning to avoid the that iceberg that's in the middle of the pond that has a shark.
Pond.
It's a whole.
All right, no, I'll get you off the hook. This is a Führer directive.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I'll get you off the hook. Now they're going to be talking about Godwin's Law and me, and nobody will mention the shark pond anymore. Does it have freaking lasers on its head? Well, no, this is interesting. And he says the full value of Microsoft software will be seen and felt in how people use devices and services at work and in their personal lives. This is a significant shift in both what we do and how we see ourselves.
You could tear apart every sentence. I mean, that first sentence you just said does not mean to me only Microsoft devices. It's Microsoft software on devices. That's purposely vague, I think, and purposely broad, because obviously Microsoft software is already running on other devices, including Macs, but also iPads and iPods and Android devices.
Right.
And I think that's going to continue. Well, obviously it's going to continue, but I think that might even be, a bigger chunk of things going forward. I mean,
well, he's left himself some wiggle room, is what you're saying.
Yeah. A lot of what they want to be successful here, these online services, I mean, for them to be truly ubiquitous, they're going to have to work really well on other devices too. That's the point, right? If Microsoft is getting some kind of monthly VIG or subscription fee from consumers as well as businesses for whatever, Xbox Live or, Outlook.com or I guess Office 365 or whatever it is, ultimately, obviously they prefer you to be on Windows, but what's the difference if they can get it from you as an Apple user or as an Android user?
Right.
And by services, we should also point out when in the shareholder letter, they talk about two kinds of services. They talk about consumer services, so things like SkyDrive and all those things that were called Windows Live that are going by a bunch of different names now. And as well as business services. And by that, they mean Office 365 and Windows Azure. So, when they say services, they mean both sides, like the whole thing. We're talking about everything.
Yep.
Of course, this is, look, if you're in the tech business and you're covering the tech, this is great. This is like meat to chew on.
Yeah, but if you're like a person, just like a regular person.
Like a regular person, what does it mean?
This ranges from confusing to outrageous, I've been, one of the things I've been trying to really push lately when I write about Windows 8 is this notion that, Windows 8 is part of this transition that Microsoft is making, obviously. It's not the next version of Windows 7. It's a completely new mobile platform. Everything that is unique about Windows 8 has to do with mobility. It's all about how devices work, not PCs. And this freaks people out. And people have a visceral reaction to this. They don't like it. They don't like the notion. Yes. Really? Oh, yes. Because,
people like consumers, people or developers, people or business people?
Everybody.
Everybody
who would know about it or opine on it these days. I mean, obviously the average world is like, whatever. But
well, I think some people would say this has already happened de facto, and it's just now the acknowledgement of it.
Right, which is, again, I think is important to note because Microsoft is often perceived as old-fashioned and slow, but here they are basically tossing their bread and butter product into a blender and saying, no, this is a mobile platform now. And, again, like a lot of people are reacting badly to that. What's the matter?
Nothing.
Bread, butter, and blenders.
You're the master of metaphors today. I am just loving it.
If only I could get the blender into the pond with the shark. But
exactly, with lasers.
Well, but you see, I mean, do you understand why this is such a big deal?
It's huge. But I'm surprised that you think it's huge for everybody as opposed to business and technology writers. Does the average Joe know or care?
Maybe not, but it's going to impact the average Joe, right?
Oh, big time, because suddenly Microsoft's saying, hey, stop buying that Lenovo crap. Forget the Dell guys.
Well, I don't think they're actually saying that.
Well, but
no, the
they're not saying it out loud.
Ramifications of this are profound because it is going to impact now we'll call them device type or, the PC type that you might buy next time around. In other words, if Microsoft had not done this, they could have come out with Windows 8. It could have been Windows 7 plus some extra stuff, right? And, people probably would have been okay with it. The problem is out in the real world, people have these computers that are getting older and they're not doing everything they want. And they kind of put up with it for a while. And then they go into the store and they're like, what else? What's going on here? And some of those people might have bought iPads or might have bought Android tablets instead. And eventually this attrition occurs. And so, the people who now wish that things were the way they were would have found themselves on a small island in a pond alone. No, I don't know. Would have been, stranded with a shark circling the island and an iceberg. But
you're right. I think that you did hit the nail, because what the consumer sitting and looking at an older Windows machine is saying is the continuity is stopped.
Yeah,
I am not just going to for every 3 years get my new Windows machine. It's something different.
I mean, Windows is obviously this kind of incredible thing in many ways. But obviously, on the other side, too, I think people would agree that computers are complex and not necessarily reliable. They tend to come with lots of crapper on them before you even get them out of the box. The experience is ruined before you even buy the thing. And you have this situation where people have just put up with this for now decades. And when something simpler comes along, unfortunately, for those of us who really care about technology, sorry, but that simpler thing is really better for those people, because at the end of the day, most people are not writing huge books like I am, or not spending a lot of time typing. They're writing an email. They're browsing the web. They're checking up on Facebook. They're playing simple games or whatever it is. It's something casual you can do maybe while you're watching TV at night or in the off moments of your life, whatever it is. It's everything that a computer is not, plus the only bits of the computer that you really cared about to begin with. And so it shouldn't be surprising that this transition is occurring. But, again, I not to keep patting Microsoft on the back, but I think a lot of people, given this situation, might have expected them to react in a very different way. And I think it's, we may not agree with the strategy, we may not agree with the specifics, but it's laudable that they're doing this at all. I mean,
are they leading or trailing, though? I mean, isn't the world changing anyway? And
they're reacting. I mean, I don't think it's fair to say they're leading or losing. But they are reacting. Of course, they're not. But I think that's part of the problem for Microsoft. They used to be able to just do things and the world would follow them along. And I think it's a reflection of their, maybe just the way the world has changed, that's no longer the case. They have to convince people to come along with them this time. And, a certain percentage of the population will just do that. But, I think they've already lost a certain percentage of the population, and they're going to lose more. I mean, this world of the future, this computing world of the future, I think, the near future now, is going to be a lot, very different than it was 5, 10, 15 years ago.
Well, that's, and in some ways this is the passing of the torch, because Bill Gates and Microsoft fueled a PC revolution by creating a platform that was stable, that was consistent, predictable. Yeah. And then the world changed suddenly. The phone and mobile and tablet and to Microsoft's credit, they're not as far behind as they were on the internet.
But this is oddly enough. I mean, this is maybe more profound of a change even than that.
Yeah, maybe.
Microsoft took. And by the way, there are examples of them doing it this year. I mean, their biggest strength has always been taking something that was technically complex, very expensive, and bringing it to the masses in a way that was simpler and more, less expensive. NT was a beautiful example of that, taking the server and workstation world by storm and making a product that worked and looked just like Windows, and so thus was very easy for people to pick up, and eventually became much more powerful even than the competition they were going up against at the time, which would have been like Unix and eventually Linux. They do that. The problem is today other companies are doing it. It's not that Microsoft isn't doing it in some places. I mean, even a product like Windows Server Essentials, which is like the logical extension of the small business server stuff that they did, sort of has elements of that to it. There's stuff in SQL Server that has elements of that. Obviously, Windows Azure and Windows Server generally have aspects of that. But, they branched out, this sort of general purpose computing thing has occurred around them and has gone on without them, smartphones and now tablets. And I think that this is their, we'll see if it's viable, but their attempt to kind of buy back into this world and hopefully be an important part of it. And we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Very, very exciting, I think. Very interesting. And I can't think of a lot. I mean, you got to give them credit. I can't think of a lot of giant companies willing to toss everything on its head like this.
Yeah, somebody compared them to. I'm sorry.
They could have gone way more conservative with this, right?
You bet. A lot of they could have said, "Hey, we're big in enterprise." Like they could have pulled an IBM.
They could have. Totally. Or they could have said, you know what, if you're using Windows on a desktop, we're going to let the next version still look exactly like Windows and not make everything look like Windows 8.
That would have been the big mistake.
I wish they had done that, but
but both of you just said something very right, which is that would have been a big mistake, and the people who use desktop computers would have appreciated it. That's right.
Yeah.
Those two things are both correct.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. But it's like that's why it's amazing. This is such a hard,
so gutsy
thing to force on people, you know, and people aren't going to like it. It's like taking medicine or something, you know. Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting. We'll see. I think next year, a year from now, we can look back and we'll see what happened. It's going to be very interesting. 5 years from now, again, this is a turning point. There's no doubt about it.
You said something interesting though, which is they want to be like Apple.
Yeah.
And I got to point out that the one thing that they're not doing that Apple does is Apple is the sole source of all its hardware. They create a ecosystem that is completely locked in.
Yep.
So is that necessary to succeed in this? Or is that something Microsoft can do better, perhaps, by being more open?
Well, I mean, these have always been two different systems, right? I'm sorry.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think it'll be interesting to see in the next few years if Microsoft ends up totally going the way Apple does. Like for now, I think they're saying, okay, we're not going to make, hundreds of millions of Surfaces right out of the gate. We're going to start out with a few million. But if partners decide they don't want to compete with Microsoft, they could leave the fold. And or if Microsoft starts really growing that number of Surfaces that they're producing, they may just push them out. So I think the Microsoft we're going to see right now is a transitional Microsoft. And if they decide they can really make a go of it with Surface, maybe you will see a more closed end-to-end Microsoft.
You think that's possible?
I think it is.
This is such a delicate thing, though. I mean, obviously they rely on partners for most of their business right now. And once you start screwing over partners, I mean,
if I'm Lenovo,
where does it end?
If I'm Lenovo or Dell, or maybe both of them, I start development today of a desktop operating system because there's no alternative.
Well,
or you go to Android.
Yeah,
or you go to Android or Linux.
Right.
Well, Android's Linux, right. So maybe you go to some Linux.
No, I think the future of those companies is the same. I mean, eventually,
Google would
what
like
we
that.
think of as PCs are not the important business anymore.
Google would love that.
Of course, of course, yes, and some of those companies would work more closely with Google, and some of them wouldn't. Some of them would maybe be a little more like Amazon.
Yeah,
that's their choice. But I think the big change though is going to be that at least for computers, for personal computers, the thing the computer I'm using here today, especially this big desktop tower. I'm not saying it goes away completely, but come on, this is going to be a very minor part of the market in a couple of years, I would think.
I should point out that what we are doing on Know-How this afternoon is building a big PC for Chad.
Right. And then next week we're gonna build a schooner.
It's a little retro. It's a little old fashioned. Yeah. I'll give you that. Wow. No,
there will always be those. By the way, there are people listening to this now that are probably trembling with rage. You know?
Oh, guarantee you. Yeah.
The belief is this is never going to go away. This is probably a sad insight into how pathetic my life is, but I was having a conversation about this stuff with my wife, of all people, who doesn't really care. God bless her.
Was she awake?
To me. But she was like going into a diabetic coma.
I had this conversation with my wife's back.
Yeah, I know. No, but I was saying, it was kind of the car versus truck thing, and I said, to be honest, from a complexity standpoint, a PC is not a truck. A PC is like a 747, Like you can use it to get somewhere, and it's certainly viable in certain scenarios, but it's not a general purpose thing, And that really, to me, I really is the gulf, I think, between the PC of old, the PC I have, and the PC of the future. That when you look at if you look at just the specs for, say the Lenovo PCs that were introduced this week, it's very, very interesting. They have some old school machines that they're basically just laptops like they've always made that have swiveling screens. But then there are two other kinds of devices they're making. One of them is based on Windows RT, of course, an ARM-based processor, an ARM-based platform. And the other one is based on this new Atom, which is also a system on a chip type thing. And those two computers, those two devices really, have completely different properties from the PCs. It's really fascinating to compare the two. From the perspective of a PC, a device running this new Atom or the ARM processor is really constrained. 2 gigabytes of RAM, 32 gig or 64 gigs at most of what they call I think it was called eMMC storage, not SSD storage. It's basically solid state storage. USB 2 ports, no USB 3. I guess these things don't support USB 3.
The system on a chip doesn't, because Intel wants you to buy an Ivy Bridge if you're going to do that.
Okay, but I mean,
this is artificially constrained, not because of consumer demand, in my opinion.
Okay,
but because Intel wants to preserve the market. And by the way, I got to show you this picture, because for those of you watching on video, Chad is building this PC. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 geeks gathered around, just grooving on this PC he's building. There is a market.
You know what? The only thing wrong? No, there isn't. And the only thing,
it's a really small market.
Yeah, there really isn't.
No, you're right.
But yeah, hey, by the way, I'll throw this one out. When Apple releases an iPod, well, not an iPod anymore, but an iPad or an iPhone, people line up around the block. When Apple releases a Mac, they don't.
They don't even talk about the Mac anymore. Yeah. They don't even mention it.
Throwing that one out there.
We have to change the name of Mac Break. See, they're trying to get out of the shot now. No, we're not geeks. We're not nerds. They're trying to change we're trying to change the name of Mac Break Weekly because
these guys
we don't mention the Mac anymore. It's not a business.
In the post-apocalyptic world of the future, these guys are going to be important because we need to have people then who know how to build stuff.
Like cockroaches.
We're going to need like water purifiers and things like that. Those people will be very valuable. Yeah. The rest of us will be whining because we can't get the weather report on our iPad.
It's kind of symbolic that these geeks are standing around in the ham radio corner by a 1961 radio transmitter. I mean, this is maybe we'll just call this Archaicville.
Right.
Yeah.
You could call it like Jellystone or something.
The Fred Flintstone town. We're going to take a break. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley. We're talking Windows coming up. There's a Service Pack 1 for Windows 8. Am I misreading this?
You laugh.
You laugh. We'll make you cry.
I have an awesome justification.
Oh my gosh. And some interesting numbers that come out of Microsoft. And I'm excited about some news about Office 2013. And I've got to ask you, Mary Jo Foley, about this mistaken announcement from Czechoslovakia. Because I know you did some digging on it. We'll talk all about that in just a second. But first, a word about our friends at Citrix and the fabulous GOTOMYPC.com. Go to my PC. Citrix really invented this way back when. Ed Iacobucci was an engineer, a software engineer at IBM, and it was loaned to Microsoft during the creation of the original NT kernel. Microsoft lent engineers to OS2, and Ed, who was an OS2 guy, went to Microsoft, and he learned the internals of the kernel. He's a genius and created the first remote access based on what he'd learned. That is how Citrix was born. Of course, Microsoft licensed back the Citrix Remote Access Protocol for RDP. Citrix still is huge in enterprise, but they also take this intelligence, this knowledge of remote access, and they've boiled it down to something that's really easy to use. This is remote access for the devices and services era. Frankly, I mean, if you think about it, that's exactly what this is. So you still have that truck. It's at the office. And unfortunately, so are you, because you need to use the truck. But wouldn't you like to go home early, take Fridays off, be able to travel without freaking out? Well, Go to My PC means you can use your iPad or your iPhone or, of course, or your laptop to access your office computer anywhere securely. Works with Android tablets, too, securely, 128-bit SSL. So it's a VPN, but a VPN that doesn't require special installation from the IT department. It uses NAT traversal, so you don't have to open ports on the firewall. And it's fast, and it's effective, and it's very affordable, especially right now when you could try it free for 30 days. Visit GoToMyPC.com. Put this on your Mac or your PC. See, it doesn't care. We're living in the agnostic world now, I think. It's device agnostic. It's operating system agnostic. It just wants to help you get the job done. Visit GoToMyPC.com. Click the Try It Free button right here, the orange one on the front page, and where it says promo code Just say Windows. You can actually install it on a Mac. It doesn't matter. You're not saying the operating system. You're saying the name of the show, Windows. And you can try it free for 30 days. Go to mypc.com, offer code Windows. In the era of devices and services, this is kind of the Rosetta Stone, the magic key. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley. We're talking Windows. We're talking Microsoft, a brand new Microsoft. Windows 8.
We're like a 1/20th of the way through the show.
I know. I'm sorry. We're gonna. But this was such a. Look, this is a huge story.
Yeah,
It is.
This is the big story. Microsoft has announced it's a devices and services company. Windows 8, it's coming out. You guys, a week from today, will be at the launch event in New York City. Oh, it's 2 weeks. Oh, okay.
2 weeks.
2 weeks from today. Oh, that's right. Next week, I'm going to be in Denver to see Madonna. I knew there was a big event next week.
You should come out and see us because I'll be in the corner in a fetal position, like just crying in a ball.
Hey, at least the show will start on time. Ayaz will be filling in for me next Thursday. He will be here on time. And then 2 weeks from now, it starts at 10 a.m. Eastern. It goes till 3 p.m. So it's 5 hours. What do you expect that's going to be? What are we talking here? Party?
Well, we know there's going to be a Surface reception of some sort is on the invitation.
Little weenies wrapped in bacon?
Little Surface weenies.
Little tofu pups.
I'm sorry, that's right. Mary Jo, not gonna eat the weenies, not gonna eat the bacon. But before all that, we've got to get Service Pack 1 out. They're not calling it Service Pack 1.
No, but they should have.
Is it that big a change?
Apple would have called it Mountain Lion.
Is it really that big? Now wait a minute. Now there's a little bit from Paul of perturbation here because you've shipped your book. Is it going to be that different?
No, this doesn't. No,
it's not that different.
Well, there are two things going on here. There's the Service Pack 1 bit of it, which is called a cumulative update, and then there are updates to all the apps, which were expected.
Oh, but we knew that. Yeah, we knew that. Because those apps
I was actually more interested that they announced it. They made an announcement. They said between now and RTN or GA, we're going to release these updates to these apps. And they actually kind of made a list, and I thought that was interesting. I think obviously they've gotten a lot of feedback from people that the stuff just wasn't complete.
Are these the apps that come built into Windows, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
so
how is that going to happen? Will it happen if on your new machine will come already done, or the first thing you'll do when you plug it in, turn it on, get on the internet, download the updates?
It is hilarious that you think there's a chance that you could actually turn on your computer and have it be up to date on day one. It betrays a complete lack of understanding of
how does this thing work. No, but I got to say we're used to that. I know when I take home a PlayStation.
Yeah, the
first thing you do, you get online, and you're not going to be able to use it right away because you're going to be downloading updates.
Well, if you enjoy doing that stuff, you're going to love Windows 8 because not only – well, actually, here's something funny to consider. Mary Jo might remember this. Let me think. I want to say that Microsoft launched Windows Update as a web-based service, I think, with Windows 98. Does that sound about right? I think that's what it was.
I think that's right.
And I think that they integrated it into the operating system probably in Vista, actually, but maybe in XP. I don't remember. So anyway, the point is Windows Update's been around for a long, long time. So obviously Windows Update's in Windows 8. Windows Update will get you this cumulative update and all that kind of stuff. You know what they don't have in Windows 8, though? That is actually really funny when you think about it, or funny or pathetic. There's no way to automatically update the apps.
What?
You can't go into Windows 8 and say, I always want my apps to be up to date. Just update them. You actually have to go in and do it. It's like, the way the world used to be before.
Not one by. Do you do it from the app, or is there kind of a centralized user?
You do it through Windows Store, like you would maybe in the Mac.
So it's like on the Mac, where you go to the store and it says you got 18 updates.
But there's no switch that says, you know what, just do this for me from now on.
That would be nice.
I think, isn't it partially because sometimes there's changes in terms of service with the apps, right? And so sometimes you have to approve that before you update them.
We're used to that.
I think there's reasons.
There's a mechanism on Android to do that.
I'm not saying there are reasons. I'm just saying
apps are automatically updated unless they have to be manually updated, and then those are segregated out, and you see those.
Right. So my point simply is that this is another aspect of this big change from the PC world to the device world, that We have become very comfortable with this notion. I think a lot of people are just like, you know what, I trust Microsoft. I'm going to put on automatic updates. I'm not going to worry about this stuff. Or you could be like my wife, and you could explicitly move the window down to the corner where you can't see it anymore, so it doesn't bother you. Especially hilarious, by the way. But
now, of course, the Apple fanatics, the fanboys made a lot of hay with this. MG Siegler, Paris Lemon.
Yeah, those people are hilarious. But what I would point out to them is that every single time Apple releases a product, and a software product like iOS 6, the updates come like a week or two later every single time. I mean,
in fact, I will tell you what Alex Lindsay said on MacBreak Weekly when Mountain Lion came out. Don't use this. Don't use the first update. Use the update that fixes the first update. Then you can use it.
Because that's the way Apple does things.
That's normal. This is how it is. And by the way, I think Microsoft's taking advantage of the fact that there's no pressed copy of the operating system. It's digital anyway. It's always being updated. This is not...
You're close. You're close. Actually, I think what they're taking advantage of is the fact that there's a delta of time between the RTM and the release. Whereas I think in the Apple world, obviously, there's always a delta. But it's months. Remember, this thing was finished back in August. And we had this conversation like, well, so obviously this will be out in September sometime. No, it'll be out in the end of October. I mean, that's a long period of time. And so, again, in keeping with this notion, Mary Jo and I have talked about this in the show, that they need to continually update the operating system.
That's
they're
normal
moving
now.
faster than we thought.
But it's the new normal. It's the new normal. And I'm not in the least surprised by this, and I don't think anybody should be concerned by it. And as I pointed out, we're used to it now. Most consumer electronics devices get updated before you use them.
I like there to be a box. I like there to be a box where even if I have to click OK 13 times in a row once, I could just configure it to just update things for me.
And that's what browsers do. That's what Chrome does now and Firefox does now. They're silently updating themselves all the time.
I think one of the beauties of a streamlined modern device would be that it did that for you.
Yes. Actually, it's interesting because Android does. Apple still does not. Apple does not. You still have to go to the store.
Yeah.
It'll put a little badge on the store.
They finally added an update all,
They finally did that. That's an improvement.
And by the way, the Windows Store does have that. I mean, they are all selected to update when you go in there.
I think this is the kind of calculus that companies are making all the time. Like, well, because they know enterprise people are going to say, oh, we don't want the auto update. I mean, they just know. They know how many. They have metrics on how many people call service line saying, I don't understand. What's going on?
My travel app is way better than it used to be. Yeah, how do I get back the old crap?
No, you laugh, but that's exactly right. Frequently, people say, I don't like this. What happened?
But again, that was my point. In other words, if you want it,
you
should be able to go in and configure it that way. Those people would never find this switch or care about it.
They should give you algebra puzzles, and then if you solve those,
you qualify.
You qualify for automatic upgrade. Seriously, they could do something like that.
A sparrow leaves Paris flying at 27 miles an hour.
Is it
laden? In Vienna, another sparrow.
Or unladen.
Yeah.
If you can say that. They say, who shot first? And if you answer correctly, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mary Jo.
What I thought was interesting about this update was actually it was a very short blog post by Steven Sinofsky explaining this. Very short, surprisingly so. I didn't even think it was really him.
Maybe
who
he's
authored
chagrined.
No, it was good. It was a good post. It said, what we usually would do is we'd work with the OEMs, we'd customize Windows, from the time we RTM till the time it comes out, and then we would tweak Windows. We'd go back in and change battery life, extend battery life, make improvements to application screen settings, blah, blah, blah. And then you'd have to wait a year till we gave this to you in Service Pack 1. So now what we're doing is we did all that and we rushed it basically, not in a way where it's careless, but we rushed it so that we could have what you usually have to wait for until Service Pack 1 to fix Windows and really tweak it, and got it to you even before it went GA.
Yeah, he says it's nominally 8 to 12 weeks.
Right.
We think this new pace of delivering high-quality updates to Windows will be a welcome enhancement for all of our customers.
Call it a new pace, too. Not a one-off,
This is their new thing. Yeah. This is,
right. After I wrote about this, though, one of my contacts said to me, what this means, right? There is not going to be a Service Pack 1 for Windows 8.
It'll just be Windows Update.
It's just going to always update, right? And so this thing we've written about before and talked about, the thing that's codenamed Blue, a lot of people said, oh, that's just going to be Service Pack 1. It's not, because Service Pack 1 is technically already done. So Blue, I think, is going to actually be like a feature pack that comes out next year and adds new features to Windows.
Yeah, I was just going through my old editorials for what used to be our print magazine, and one of the things I found was this article from about 4 or 5 months ago where I said, Windows 8 will never be done, that it's going to ship in an incomplete state, depending on how you want to look at it, and that they'll have to update it over time.
You called it.
And again, it's not so much surprising that they've done this. It's just the timing is sort of interesting. I mean, it is sort of curious that they would deliver this before Windows 8 is handed out to the public. And I do, not to be sarcastic about what you said earlier, I do sort of wonder if any PCs will actually ship with this as part of that image, or whether this is something that people are going to have to install themselves. I suspect they're going to have to install it themselves, to be honest. But, again, kudos to them for getting it out so quickly.
As a kind of a side note, you don't get to play in Microsoft points when you buy stuff in the store. You use greenbacks or whatever country you're in.
I will never miss Microsoft points.
Pound sterling. I have Microsoft points still. Will I be able to do anything?
Yeah, of course. But the problem with Microsoft points is it's an indefinite loan to a company that doesn't need the money.
Exactly.
And I've never understood that. Because the way that you buy them are in these big chunks, and then the amounts that you spend don't ever add up to that chunk that you bought. So there's always some little amount floating around in space. Not that we're going to be getting a lot of interest on that at our own banks, but I mean, it just seems odd. It always seemed odd to me that other companies, Apple, Google now, and Amazon, of course, have been able to deal in local currency, and Microsoft never did.
Well, I've got a 5-pound note here.
I have a New Zealand buck.
I loaned Queen Elizabeth 5 pounds a few years ago, and I'm not afraid to use it. Item 3, Microsoft executive says, we're going to sell a lot of them. Devices.
She's not buying it.
No?
Yeah.
For the benefit of listeners, Mary Jo just shook her head and laughed.
400 million Windows 8 devices. So now this confirms, by the way, that they're using devices to refer to computers, doesn't it? 400 million in the first 9 months, 100,000 plus apps in 90 days. But isn't that kind of at least the 400 million? That's kind of the ballpark of what they sold of Windows 7 in the first 9 months, right?
It's actually, that 400 million number is the number of PCs they expect to have Windows on it within a year. This guy kind of garbled the message in his.
He did it like 3 times, so the bastard,
Yeah. He's
a sales guy.
Microsoft's not saying it, but
he's
a sales guy.
Oh, actually, so I got a quote from Microsoft about this. Did I tell you about this?
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So let me see if I can find it. Yeah, because Mary Jo and I had a conversation about this guy and the way he described things, and it's really interesting because he was very specific and he kept repeating the same things. Sometimes when people from Microsoft, because we deal with this company a lot, they repeat these bullet points, and you can always tell when they're on script because they say the exact same thing in the exact same way. And he did that. And I was telling Mary Jo offline that it seemed to me like this might be an internal thing that they're trying to push around.
Oh, interesting.
That maybe he revealed this internal information. But I got a quote from Microsoft Microsoft spokesperson, let's say, told me that to clarify the statement, the 400 million figure was from a previous IDC prediction of PC sales that were from July 2012 through July 2013. They were saying that for that 12-month period, there would be 400 million PCs sold. So first of all, they're not all Windows 8 PCs. The quote I got was that per our usual policy, we are not making any predictions on adoption of Windows 8 before it hits the market. So they basically disavowed everything this guy said.
Right. I mean, to me, the number that was even crazier was the app number, right? Like 100,000 apps in the store by January. Okay, right now there's 4,300 as of this week. So where did that come from?
Yeah.
That's not even the number of desktop apps added.
On Twitter, clearly he meant Windows Phone apps,
I don't know what
how
he
could
meant.
they possibly, I guess we'll see. My problem with the Windows Store app count thing is simply that we're playing the same game we played with Windows Phone, which is that no number is ever going to be big enough to satisfy some portion of the population. This will always be seen as a problem. Looked at a little more pragmatically, all you have to do is go into the Windows Store yourself and look to see what's there. And I have to say, there are a handful of decent-looking games in there already, and not a lot else. I mean, there's just not a lot in there. And as I was telling Mary Jo today, you know, one of the big problems I have with it is just the presentation of apps. If you go into any one of the sections of the store, like games is a classic example, what you basically see is a sea of rectangular tiles that goes off into the distance. And there's nothing really differentiating anything in there. And there's no way to really know which ones are good, which ones are bad. I mean, obviously there are ways to sort it by rating and all that kind of stuff, but it's just kind of a it's like being in a bookstore, but you're 20 feet from the books, and so all you can see are the colors of the spines, and that you're supposed to pick. You're supposed to show me the blue one, you know, and then you look at it, and you're like, yeah, okay, how about the yellow one? You know, it's got that level of detail to it, and it's just a bad presentation.
Yeah. Adult content, baby. Speaking of presentation, there will be adult games.
Limited.
Up to a level, right?
But when they say adult, they mean like shooters. They don't mean... What do they mean? What do they mean?
I shouldn't even talk about the story, even though I put it in since I don't game. But there's a gaming rating called PEGI 18.
PEGI.
I've never heard of this.
I've never heard of it. Well, no.
That sounds like an international thing.
Must be.
Yeah. So a lot of gaming
Elder
developers
Scrolls
are worried
Skyrim is prohibited. Call of Duty is
in
prohibited.
Certain countries.
Assassin's Creed is prohibited.
It says ERSB, but my understanding is that those games would be rated M for mature, right? So,
yeah, so
for
Peggy,
example,
Peggy is European. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so here
so
I have
they're
a game.
worried about that because in Europe, I guess there are going to be stronger controls put on what can be in the store.
And again, it's only if you're going through the store. It's not.
Basically, every game I buy is rated M for mature, and it's not.
Steam,
none of them.
If you're using
none of them are
Steam,
like nudity.
It's
like
it's shoot 'em ups.
Yeah,
it's all
so
the games
Ghost Recon Future Soldier is rated M for blood, intense violence, and strong language.
Right. Nobody's making sexy games because gamers really.
You know, I don't have time for sexy games.
That's exactly.
I'm killing terrorists.
I'm
what are
busy
you
shooting bad guys, and or they go. I don't know what sex is. What is sex? It's
Right.
You know, I watch Lisa's son, who's 9.
Yeah.
And his closest friends now are online playing Call of Duty with him, and they're 9 and 10-year-olds. And they would smoke me. I would not have a chance in hell.
As a parent of a kid who also does this, the one recommendation I would make: turn off the mics.
Oh no, they're talking. No, he's got the headset. And they're talking
what I'm
to
saying.
each other.
Do not let them talk.
Why?
Because you can't. The part you can't control is every other ass clown that's on the internet. I know. When I play online, I have the mic. The mics are globally off for me.
Yeah.
Because what I don't want to listen to is some clown singing along to a song, or with a radio on in the background, or talking to the guy who's delivering pizza to his house, or whatever it is. I mean, it's like an endless cavalcade of stupidity online.
I think he's 9. What does he know?
Well, okay. No reason to rush it is my point. I mean, I would just, turn off the mics.
Hey, speaking of which, by the way, it's not on your list, but did you see that Netflix settled?
Yep. Yeah.
And they're going to start closed captioning all their movies by 2014.
Yeah. Both Microsoft and Amazon, who are the other two major players in this market, have revealed in recent days that they're moving down this road, which is interesting as they're required to do so by law. Apple is already there. I would say if you have anyone with a hearing disability and you need closed captioning, Apple's stuff is by far the best. But actually, Netflix, for all of this, the settlement and everything, I think their quote was that 90% of what people are actually watching is already captioned. That has certainly been our experience. When we go onto Netflix, the streaming service, I mean, almost everything is captioned now. It's there. So this is a situation where the organization that represented, I guess, deaf people essentially, and people who are hard of hearing, went after them because they were the market leader,
right?
Which makes sense. But the truth is, they've already been doing a great job, and Amazon has done almost nothing. They just recently announced that they have some web content. If you view their stuff through the web, some of it is captioned, but they have a long way to go. Microsoft announced that the update to their Xbox Video app for Windows 8 will have captioning, and I presume that means the content as well. We'll see, but yeah, so this is good.
It's the National Association of the Deaf, NAD, and it was a lawsuit that they joined with the Western Massachusetts Association of the Deaf and Hearing Impaired. But yeah, I mean, it's good news. You know,
the more profound development that has occurred this past week is Nokia announced a device. I think it's called like the Hearing Loop or something like that. But it's basically just a little box. It interacts with a smartphone or any other digital device, and with a cochlear implant. So for someone like my son who has cochlear implants, it will allow them to wirelessly through Bluetooth take phone calls and actually hear them. Yeah, it's a big deal. That's a really big deal.
That's amazing.
And that's cool, and it's universal. It's not just for Nokia devices. It works with everything. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah. So these things are getting a lot better.
Speaking of Nokia, they're going to be shipping. Wait a minute. Explain this to me. It says derivative Windows 8 phone handsets on other carriers. Yeah. What the heck does that mean?
So you know how there's the Lumia 820?
Yeah.
That we've already seen. There's also going to be a thing we found out this week called the Lumia 822, which is pretty much like the 820, except it's going to be available for Verizon. So they do slightly one-offs.
We've seen this in other
yeah.
systems. So it's a different number, but it maybe has different apps, or like Verizon's VCast app is on it or something like that.
Yep.
Okay. All right. And I saw T-Mobile.
Yeah, I think it allows
is getting a Lumia too.
Right. So when it was revealed about a week ago, I guess it was, that some of these Nokia devices would be exclusives to certain carriers, there was a lot of uproar over that. And hopefully, and Mary Jo has a note in here, maybe there'll be a Lumia 922 that will go out on Verizon perhaps or somewhere else.
That would be great.
Obviously answer all the complaints very nicely. So.
Right. The only thing we don't know is how long do they have the exclusive for on AT&T for the Lumia 920.
We've seen exclusives for a month. I mean, exclusive could be anything.
When they announced the 900 on AT&T, that was supposed to be an exclusive. And then it was actually just a time-limited exclusive. And then it was about 30 days. Yeah, it wasn't really that big of a deal. So hopefully that's what's happening this time, too. Because that seemed like a little bit of a setback in the way, in strategy. But
I want to talk about this rumor The Verge published from a renegade Czech Republic Microsoft product manager.
Sounds like a typical Verge source. I'll just say it.
And Microsoft's response in just a moment. First, a word from Ford and their great social site, social.ford.com. They invite you, especially if you're a Ford lover, as I am. I drive my 2010 Mustang, to go visit social.ford.com. Get yourself a badge. They've got a variety of them, all sorts of badges. But one, like I have several. I collect these. I drive one. I heart Ford. Go further at a Ford. And I'm especially proud of the badge. Ooh, I want a Cobra badge. Ooh, that'd be nice to have. I don't have the Shelby, but I'd like to have the badge. It's a lot cheaper than the Shelby. But they also have a Geek badge. They invite you. Look at all these badges. I didn't even realize they had so many. There it is, the Tech Geek badge. This is all part of Ford's news site that is really kind of bringing social to Ford lovers and aspiring Ford lovers. Place for them to put interesting videos. Here's a 8-episode web-based comedy series that this is, I think, very interesting, called Escape My Life. That's it's a comedy series, but it's the Ford Escape is in there too. It's kind of interesting. Kind of an interesting idea. That's there. They've got, speaking of ideas, a suggestion, the new digital suggestion box. You could put your great ideas on the site and vote on other people's great ideas. There's a lot of articles about Ford. Here's one, a tribute to Carroll Shelby. Man, that guy was amazing. Really amazing. And I put an article on here about new Ford technologies, particularly the sync technologies and autonomous vehicles. So I did a little interview and wrote something up. It's all here, social.ford.com. You can also post images and watch videos of other Ford owners talking about their vehicle. If you're into Ford, this is the place to go if you'd like to learn more about Ford, too. And, of course, the brand new 2013 Ford Fusions, which were just announced. These are sweet. Oh, the new Focuses are here, too. Oh, man. The Fusion is their first plug-in hybrid, the Fusion Energy. Oh, this is sweet. Go further and afford social.ford.com. So I got all excited. We were what were we doing? MacBreak Weekly, I guess. And I said, look, Microsoft's announced they're going to do and for maybe it was about Android. It was in the Twig show. They're going to do an Android Office 2013. I'm so excited to go along with the iPad. It'll be available in March. Not so fast, right?
Right.
So what's the truth, Mary Jo? Either way, you'll be happy to know the first thing I did is I went to allaboutmicrosoft.com because I said, well, okay, The Verge says that. Let's see what Mary Jo Foley says.
You know, you Apple and Android guys always rat on Microsoft, but the first chance that you're going to get Office, all of a sudden you're doing a
jumping
happy
up
dance.
and down.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
we understand. We understand.
So, I still remain convinced that the Verge story is not completely wrong.
That's what I think. I think so, too.
Because, when Frank Shaw, who's the head of corporate communications, put out a tweet yesterday saying that the story wasn't right. But what he said was the information shared by the Microsoft Czech subsidiary is not accurate. So if you think about what he said, he didn't deny that story was right. Right. He just said
some inaccuracies.
There's some inaccuracies in it, but he didn't say which things were inaccurate or that the whole thing was wrong.
And you are the expert in parsing the non-denial denial.
I am. No, I mean, if there was not going to be Office for Android and Office for iPad, the correct tweet would have been, "We're not doing that, guys. Don't get your hopes up."
Right.
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 But that's not what he said. And, the sourcing on this, because it's a report that came out of the Czech Republic, so The Verge had people translating it. I ran it through Bing Translator, and I got a slightly different translation from what was reported by The Verge. So, I still think these things are probably coming in some form, and starting sometime after March is what the story actually said. It didn't say in March. It said sometime after March.
So I think talked about May. Remember, as the May
right?
Was
we had talked about May. Yep, and
so that's after March.
So. That's after March.
And by the way, not just Android and iOS, but Symbian.
Yep. They already have Office Mobile on Symbian.
That was before Microsoft and Nokia hooked up to do their current arrangement around Windows Phone. They had a previous partnership aimed at bringing Office to Symbian.
Right.
Right.
And I don't believe that ever actually happened. I could be wrong about that one.
No, it did.
It did happen. Okay.
Would it, do you think, be a full-fledged companion to Office 2013? Would it, because the whole point of Office 2013 is it is wherever you are, right?
Right.
And that's what we want. I want my documents to show up on my tablet.
Yeah. I think if they do Office for iPad or Office for Android, it'll likely be a subscription kind of a thing, more than necessarily like here's the apps to download. Because for one thing, Microsoft doesn't want to pay Apple for selling its apps through the store, right?
Right.
So what if you could just use the apps in the cloud or something? More like what Office web apps are today.
Yep. Yeah, I would, just guessing, I would say that the phone versions would be much like we see in Windows Phone today, which is not, which is decent but not great. And then the iPad tablet versions would have to be closer to Office web apps than to a full-fledged PC version of Office. I mean, I can't imagine they're going to be the full meal deal. I mean, obviously, they want to have that situation where the experience is best on Windows. So we shall see.
Well, the other part of the story was, that general availability would be later this year, which is what we've been saying all along on Windows Weekly. We've been saying, likely to RTM probably by November, be out to the general public around then. Be out to MSDN and TechNet and volume licensees before the end of this year is over. And then the launch around February of next year. So that's when everyday consumers will be able to get the new Office.
That's exciting.
Yes, it's right around the corner.
I am excited. And I can.
We're just getting that one preview then, right? So
yeah,
there's not going to be a release candidate version or just the one.
Yeah.
Let's see. RTM November. I'm just looking at all the.
Get all this stuff.
There's a lot of notes in here.
Sorry. I added a bunch of extra things.
No. Well, say anything you want to say. I'm trying to.
Okay. Well, so the other date we already know. We know 2 other Office dates already that Microsoft's confirmed. One of those is the Link application for Windows 8 and Windows RT is going to be final by late October. They've already said that. They also have said that Office Home and Student RT, which is the Office that gets included with Windows RT and the Surface RT, are going to be rolling out in final form to users starting in early November. So we know we're like right on the edge of Office going gold and everybody getting the final version of the new release.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Anything else on that? Because I can't figure it out.
Nope.
Okay.
No, I think that's all. That's all. All right. We have so many notes under that one. That's me just like going nuts. Sorry.
And last week we talked about the now the very complicated maneuvers that Mary Jo is going to have to go through because they've announced the Windows 8 launch in New York, the Windows Phone launch in San Francisco, and then there's Build in Seattle, and then there's the event in Vegas.
Right.
Are you both going to do that same crazy itinerary? What's the?
Yeah, we are.
Wow. New York City, Redmond, Las Vegas.
I contacted Mary Jo on Monday or Tuesday, whatever day, and I said, I need to talk to you on the phone. I can't do this.
It's too complicated.
You got to help me understand what the hell's going on here.
Too complicated.
Because I needed to book everything, and yeah, it's a mess.
He was having a little meltdown, but it was okay.
And you guys are going to have a tweet up?
Yeah,
we're going to have more
where
than one, maybe.
Multiple tweet ups.
Yep. So the New York tweet up, for anybody who's going to be in New York City who's listening to our show on October 25th, starting at 8 p.m., we're going to have a tweet up at the Social Bar and Grill in Times Square. We've been tweeting about it a little bit already. And that is right near the Microsoft pop-up store in Times Square that just got announced this week. And they are going to be open at midnight in that store on October 25th. So we're going to have our tweet up.
If the Bridge is listening, and I know they are, that's a nice little story for you, that the Microsoft pop-up store in where? Where is it?
Times Square.
Times Square. Will be open at midnight.
Yes.
To sell stuff.
The weird one, we have a couple in the Bay Area, but the one nearest me won't be open till like November 5th.
Oh, really? Is that true? Darn.
What the hell?
I know.
They must be.
If you click on that link that's in our show notes, Leo, you can see a picture of the San Francisco pop-up store being built. Somebody sent that to me today.
So this is
there's a mock-up
drawing, and then
right.
Oh, they're
that's
actually
the San Francisco store.
Oh, it's going to be out in the Galleria. This is at the San Francisco Center. So this is out in the Galleria. Yep. I know exactly where this is. So and
then the one below it is Natick, Mass. Paul will be happy to see. See the big Surface sign on that one?
Yeah, I'm not going to Natick.
Come on, what's wrong with Natick?
Natick.
Well, there's nothing wrong with Natick, but have you been to the Natick Mall? It's like going back in time to the 1970s,
It does kind of look that way, too, on this picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, these stores are kind of weird. Like, I was kind of envisioning they were going to take over empty retail stores. And it's going to be big.
They're literally popping up in the middle of the mall.
They are.
Kind
of
like the zombies in Left 4 Dead 4.
That one right there looks like a bake sale stand.
It really is kind of.
It's still being built, but yeah, it does look not what
tables
like what I thought.
And curtains on railings. It does. This at least has it's like purpose built.
Is this where I come to get my gifts wrapped that I bought at the Apple store?
Santa will be with you in 2 hours. Please enjoy a cookie.
It's got that kind of a vibe.
And we have to give a shout out to the guy in New York who's helping us with our tweet up because he has gone above and beyond the call and organized it. So thank you, Darren Cohen. Fins up DNC on Twitter. He volunteered to help us find it.
October 25th.
And you're sure that this Social Barn in Yacht Club is an okay Oh, I get it. Social Bar NYC.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was a Social Barn and Yacht Club. Okay, now I get it. Yes.
And I hear some Microsoft folks are joining us. They've been telling me they're going to come to our tweet up. So we'll all be there. There'll be other bloggers there as well.
Going out there.
So this is that night, 8 to 11 p.m. In New York. That's awesome. Thank you for doing that. That's so fun. I want to go. Gosh darn it.
But wait, there's more.
I think you should send a camera crew. Come on, send them over.
Maybe we'll get a crew over there. That's a good idea. Or at least somebody with a Windows phone.
So, but after New York, we go to San Francisco for the Windows Phone launch. We're not going to be there long enough to do anything else there. But the next week is Build, and we're having an event on, is it Tuesday night? Tuesday night?
You're having the Build Bash.
The Build Blogger Bash.
Build Blogger Bash.
That would be on, what, the 30th?
Too bad you can't get that sponsored by Bloomberg Business Week, because then you could have the Bloomberg Business Week Build Blogger Bash. They're probably going to sue
us and make us change the name.
I know.
So we'll be there, too. And since that's in Bellevue, right, Bellevue, Washington, at the Lucky Strikes, right? There'll probably be a lot of Microsoft people there as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, the bowling alley. Oh, that's exciting.
And then,
you party
on
animals.
Thursday
the
1st, we'll be in Las Vegas. Mary Jo is doing 2 talks. I'm going to be interning for Mary Jo on the second of those 2 talks. But we'll be there as well. And it's not so much that we're having a meetup there, although I suppose that's possible since we'll be there.
Yep.
But we'll be hanging around.
Windows Connections show.
Windows Connections, right? Sorry.
Paul's
so we're doing a session. Well, what do you call it? Like a panel session.
Yeah.
What are you going to talk about?
It's going to be like a group therapy session for people who are confused about what's going on with Microsoft right now.
Cool.
I think that's the easiest way to explain it. There's going to be a lot of crying, hand-holding. It'll be good.
It's going to be Paul.
My session before that is going to be about reading the tea leaves, looking ahead at what's next for Microsoft. So that's
I like that. So Paul and Mary Jo, devices and services.
that's right. I picked devices.
Good. I want to be services.
So everybody's listening. I'm sure it wants to meet you guys. And gosh, we should. You know what we should do? Let me talk to Lisa. See if we can get some swag out to you.
Oh yeah, that'd be a blast.
We got 2 weeks. Maybe we can get something because we're doing those T-shirts, the Teespring T-shirts. Maybe we can get some of those for the event. That'd be fun. But I'll figure out something. Cool. All right. Wow. Time for our picks of the week, our tips of the week, whatever else you decide. Your codename pick of the week. Let's start with Paul. And Wing Commander. I went like this. What?
I know. This is everything I stand against in one website. No, it's like PC gaming and whatever. But actually, like many people my age, I kind of grew up on Wing Commander.
I love Wing Commander.
Loved it, of course, in the day. And the creator of Wing Commander is doing a project where he wants to basically make a new modern game of that stripe, and it'll be like a single player experience. There'll be a multiplayer, wide open type of thing as well. This looks awesome. It looks awesome. And he's not going through Kickstarter, but it's a Kickstarter type thing where he's trying to get people to, help finance it. And it just looks...
It's a PC game. They're going to make
a PC game.
Wow.
But, I mean, the graphics are incredible. It looks amazing. So it's the type of thing where, obviously, gaming has moved in a certain direction. I would say on consoles, shooters are kind of the big thing. On the PC, a lot of people are obviously playing, the wide open world type games. They're playing simple games on Facebook and on the web and so forth. A lot of people are gaming on, devices, touch devices and everything. This is like an old school PC space simulation. I mean, it's not the burning need of any huge market apparently, but it wouldn't surprise me to discover
the nostalgia market for sure.
But if you actually, we can't sit here and watch this whole thing because it's probably 10 minutes long, but if you go to this site and watch the video,
it looks great.
Is
the game awesome. A shooter or is it a resources game?
It's a simulation. It's a space sim. Think of, well, actually, Wing Commander isn't the greatest example of it. I mean, there'll be a campaign that will be Wing Commander-esque.
But you do shoot.
Well, you do. Yeah, you do shoot, of course.
So you're in a flight sim that can shoot.
What he's going to do is create an ever-evolving world. And so, in other words, he was talking about not world, but universe. And rather than having a situation where maybe once a month or once a quarter or something, there are these updates. He's going to have a team of people working on it so that weekly or bi-weekly there'll be a this place will expand and improve over time. And everything.
Oh, that sounds really cool.
Absolutely worth checking out. It really, really does look amazing.
So,
and again, it's not my kind of thing, but I suspect a lot of people would be really, really interested in this.
I played Wing Commander and loved it. So Star Citizen is the site. Star Citizen. If you Google Star Citizen and Wing Commander, you'll find it. It's a longer URL. And there are a variety of pledges, everything from $10,000 to $10,000.
Yeah.
But look at the videos on here because you'll get some idea.
It really is amazing.
It does look really cool. All right. Mary Jo, are you still awake?
No, I just slept for a minute. I'm back.
a little cat nap.
It's so disrespectful.
This will make her feel better. Our Windows or device software pick of the week. I'm sorry.
Wow, yeah, right.
Our service pick of the week.
We're going to change everything because of that.
Yep. What is our
so Microsoft this week released Windows Server 2012 Essentials to Manufacturing.
Yay.
I have been writing a series of articles about it. I wrote a review of it, but I will continue the series. There's a lot more to write, including such things as migrating from previous versions of the service to this version, or from the I guess they call it the release candidate version to the release version, which I've done. It's just awesome software. I think most people are probably going to acquire this with new server hardware that will be coming in soon, hopefully, including on the assuming they just continue it, which I do think they're going to do. I use an HP microserver that's excellent. They sell it today with Windows Server Essentials 2011, which is this product's predecessor, but I would imagine in the coming weeks they'll be swapping that over, or switching it over to Windows Server 2012 Essentials. So I've talked about this one a lot in the past. There's no real reason to beat it to death, but it just came out this week, and it's just great stuff. So definitely check this one out.
Yay! Now we go to Mary Jo and her enterprise pick of the week.
So my enterprise pick of the week is the Azure services for Windows Server. And in honor of that, I have to show you the T-shirt I got from Microsoft this week.
Let me show you. Yes, there we go.
Because
it looks just like Wing Commander.
Yes, it does.
It's Azure. It's blue. What is it? Is it?
Is that a shark in a pond?
It looks like a shark in a pond
with a laser on its head. It is
freaking laser. Does your cloud platform have sharks with freaking lasers? That is awesome. Oh, my
that's
goodness.
the new Azure shirt, which is pretty cool. Okay. You got to make Azure fun, right? Otherwise, it's like...
I am blown away. I am blown away.
So what Azure services for Windows Server are it's basically the collection of services that Microsoft announced earlier this year. So hosted virtual machines, the Azure websites, codenamed Antares, service management portal, service management application programming interface. So they're taking all of these things that right now are only available to people using Microsoft Azure, and they're bringing them to Windows Server. So if you're a hoster, a third-party hosting company, you want to have these things available to people hosted from your data center, not just from Microsoft. This is what is going to let you do that. And this week, Microsoft advanced to beta on that. And they've said also publicly that by early 2013, it'll be in final form. Possibly interesting to some of the listeners here is right now this is a hosting provider play, but Microsoft is not ruling out that someday they also will let large enterprise customers have these same services on their own implementations of Windows Server. So it could be interesting. If you don't want Microsoft to host your stuff and you want to host it yourself and use all these new capabilities, you may have that opportunity sometime soon.
Cool. And finally, the code name pick of the week.
Yes, and I need help pronouncing this one.
Yeah, I don't know how.
The word is naiad, I believe. N-A-I-A-D.
Yes, they're naiads are like mermaids. They're water creatures, water fairies, water nymphs.
Exactly,
right?
Water nymphs.
Water nymphs.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's naiad. Yeah.
I think it's naiad too.
Yeah.
So naiad is a new Microsoft research project about data parallel data flow computation. Wow, that's a mouthful. But what also is very interesting is naiad. One of the synonyms for naiad is dryad.
Right.
And people who remember, Microsoft had a project codenamed Dryad, which was going to be one of their big data offerings. They killed it right before they launched it and instead backed Hadoop. So it's interesting because I think Naiad is saving a piece of Dryad, specifically Dryad Link, LINQ, and they're going to possibly still bring that out at some point. So right now, again, just a Microsoft Research project that recently became available to download off the Microsoft Research site for the first time this week.
You know, it would be cool? A Naiad with frickin' lasers.
That would be. That'd be the ultimate. That would be the ultimate.
Guys, thank you for putting up with my tardiness. I was telling them before the show that I got stuck in a really horrid traffic jam. I thought it was an accident. It was so bad. It was not moving for about an hour. North of here, I was at a meeting, as I am often on Thursdays. And a normal half-hour trip took an hour. And the whole thing was because everybody was slowing down to look at the pumpkin patch and corn maze right next to the highway. Every October, this thing is there. But it's fascinating to people, and they just all had to look. Because I got past that. There was no accident. It was that. Unbelievable. So thank you for your patience, Paul and Mary Jo. I really apologize. And I've got a crisp 5-pound note waiting for you both.
Just waiting for us.
Just waiting for you. Actually, one of our viewers wanted some stickers, and he's in Dublin. So he sent me some Irish money. Yeah, I guess it's Irish. Paul Thurrott.
Ireland's on the euro, actually.
It is? Well,
it could be Northern Ireland.
Let me see. Wait a minute. Let me see. He's
British.
It says here.
Pounds.
He says he's from Belfast. It says Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Thurrott is online at the SuperSite for Windows, winsupersite.com. That's his blog where you'll get the latest Windows news. Do what The Verge does.
I refuse.
No, I'm saying everybody else should do what The Verge does and just get the latest Windows news from Paul Thurrott. You can also read his book. It's out, Windows 8 Secrets, and I don't care about any service packs. Everything's in there just as you need it right now.
The impact of battery life is not going to affect my book.
No, I don't think so. Just add 10.
Add an hour.
Yeah, to everything he says, and you'll be fine.
Yep.
Mary Jo Foley is at allaboutmicrosoft.com. Also an excellent place to go if you want to keep up on the latest Microsoft news or debunk any rumors from The Verge. So I'm going to get another email from Joshua Topolsky saying,
yes, you are.
You got a problem with me? Is everything okay? I love you. I love The Verge. I read it religiously, but it's fun. It's just a little fun to make fun. Could be anybody. Could be Engadget.
You got to add to my title now, official party planner. Since I'm
party planner.
Bashes left and right.
TweetUp planner and Build Blogger Bash planner. Where do people go if they wanted RSVP for the Build Blogger Bash?
It's sold out already, but you can
late.
join the wait list. Join the wait list on buildbloggerbash.com. And if you want to come to the New York TweetUp, there is no RSVP needed. Just show up. But be warned, if we sell out,
cash.
we might not get it.
Go to the
bring
social
cash,
barn.
bring bribes.
Don't go to the Social Barn and Yacht Club. Go to the Social Bar.
Make sure it's not from Belfast, though. It has to be real money.
No.
Yes.
It's got the Queen on it. This is good. This is legal tender. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mary Jo. Thank you for joining us. We do Windows Weekly Thursdays, 11 a.m. Pacific, and we will be on time next week because IAZ is hosting. 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC on twit.tv. In 2 weeks hence, we'll be flip-flopping times. We'll give you an update, a reminder on that because we're going to be covering the Windows 8 launch. It's finally here. The excitement is palpable. If you missed the live broadcast, don't forget, on-demand audio and video always available at twit.tv/WW. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mary Jo. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Windows Weekly. Why is Paul sitting there? Are you wait a minute. You can't leave?
Are
you still there? Hello? Oh, I don't hear him.
I was listening to you do the promos. I don't know.
It's slow day.
Like that guy leaves high school and then keeps coming back, you know.
Anyway, I'm so sorry, Paul. And I would have let you know. I just did. I thought this can't last. This can't last. And it goes. Anyway,
I had a similar traffic issue on Tuesday myself.
Do you have corn mazes in Dedham?
No, this wasn't caused by a corn maze. It was caused because I don't commute to work ever, and I don't understand how traffic works.
Exactly. Every time it happens to me, it's like, oh, thank God I don't do this anymore.
Yeah.
It's just horrid.
My Maps app told me it would take me 43 minutes to get into Boston. It took me an hour and 20 minutes.
Wow. You were using Apple Maps?
No, no, I was not.
Okay. Thanks, Paul. All
right, thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
See you in a couple of weeks.